طبتي أيام طبتي أحبك مثلما أنت أحبك كيفما كنت ومهما كان مهما صار أنت حبيبتي أنت زوجتي أنت حبيبتي
The voice of Ahmed Bukhatir Zawjati. And if you were really to commemorate and do a reflection on what it was like to be on Radio Al Ansar back in the day, this was probably one of the most highly requested songs when Ahmed Bukhatir released Zawjati. There's so many nasheeds like this that people will remember and feel nostalgic about. When I don't really hear it that much anymore, but Ma Ki Dua is probably one of those songs that I think of or it was most requested back in the day as well. There's so many such nasheeds like that. If there's any nasheeds for you that you can recall that will really bring back all those memories of back in the day, please let me know about them as well. You can pop us a message 060-904-1056. It's the Sunday Lounge. Earlier you heard the voice of Munira Muhammad, who used to present the Kids Zone program before. She's now currently on Umrah. May Allah accept her Umrah with her family as well, and accept all her du'as, all her ibadah as well. And we here not only bringing you the best of nasheeds, but also really throwing it back to what it was like in the past as well, being a part of Radio Al Ansar. Also keeping in line with the theme, Sunday Lounge is always giving you the latest on nasheeds, keeping away all the doom and gloom in the UK at the moment. You have the Vocal Arts Festival that's taking place with a 9-city UK tour that kicked off this weekend. Saeed, Saif Adam, Muslim Bilal, Ilyas Mao, Isam, Labaik, Amin Davis, and Mike Rook. That's going around from Bradford to Oldham to Luton, Cardiff, Leicester, Coventry, Blackburn, Birmingham, and London. So you can find out more information by following their page, We Are 26, or the Vocal Arts Tour. You'll follow their journey on Instagram. They all seem to be posting about it. It goes up until the 18th of August, and you can follow their tour there if you've got friends and family over in the UK. Remember the Vocal Arts Festival that we were fortunate enough to have in Durban as well. That was really highly enjoyable, and you can join the rest of the team and follow their journey and their experience in the UK as well. It's just 11:15, and we're going to be joined by, I love having guests on the programs, especially for this month of August, and we've got so much to talk about. We're going to welcome to the program Adila Wahed. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Well, there we go. Let me try that one more time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum salam.
Oh, there we go. There
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Sorry, it was on my side. How are you doing?
How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. How are you doing, Adila?
I'm well, alhamdulillah. Please accept my apologies for not being in studio this morning with you.
No, the fact that you made yourself available to actually talk to me as well. I don't know how many of you I actually reached out to in these past few weeks, but I said you guys all played such amazing roles, such significant roles in radio. And I had to speak to you because we said we could not do a 12-year commemoration without looking at all the personalities that contributed in some way or another, that featured on air and were a part of what we did and made it memorable. So I know it's the long weekend, you're spending time with family, but I wanted a few minutes from you as well, because you had a very long standing with the radio station, not only as a presenter, but you had a good relationship with the management at the time, with Riaz Jamal, with Auntie Asya and all of them, and all of us, with the technicians and everyone. And you still do have quite a good relationship with everyone in the Durban community. You're a well-known figure. But let's rewind a little bit. We are commemorating when Al Ansar was a seasonal broadcaster and then got that full-time license. How did you find your way into Al Ansar? How was your journey with Al Ansar? Where did it start?
My journey started when I was 12 years old. You wouldn't believe it.
Wow.
And I started working with Al Ansar in the year 2000. So I'm actually, it's now 24 years later for me. So I was at the Mariam B Madrasa, and Auntie Asya was the principal of the madrasa at the time. And it was at Kenilworth Road. And she said to all the students, she had come through all our classrooms saying that we're opening up a radio station and we're looking for volunteers who want to work. And of course, my hand was all up, a few of us from our madrasa class. And then The license was in December each year. So from year one, for 5 years thereafter, during my school holidays, during the temporary license, I worked in marketing and advertising.
Oh, wow. So that is how it began. To think, and that's what we often don't realize is Al Ansar's journey actually began with Mariam B. Then how did it actually come to where you joined the radio station or actually ventured on air? What was your initial experience like for doing that for the first time?
Look, for those 5 years during my school holiday period, if you want to call it, Al Ansar was only on for 1 month.
Yeah.
So my responsibilities were within the marketing and advertising department, but we would be called in to do adverts, and I'd be called in to read scripts. And basically my responsibility at that time, I have to tell you, Salma, it was a huge responsibility. It was to take all of the schedules that were over 50, 60 pages high, because back then we were doing manual work for every 15-minute slot. And then it was to take all the advertising contracts and pencil it into the schedule for a 30-day period, and then re-go through the contracts and then ink that. So take an eraser and erase it and put it in ink.
Wow.
Thereafter, take the cassette for that advert after the client approves it, and take a pencil and make sure that each cassette is rolled to the point that when the studio technician presses play, it starts from the beginning of the advert.
Oh my goodness.
So my job was to run in and out of the studio the entire month, making sure the correct adverts cassettes were in order and not compromised in terms of the sponsors, etc. And obviously doing the schedules, making manual copies and giving it to each department. So I was involved in being on air, reading the news, filling this and that. It was part of training, right? And then when I completed matric, Auntie Asia offered me a full-time job for that 1 year as her assistant in radio. I also worked with Salih Suleiman, Salim Karwa, Riaz Jamal, Uncle Azim Baks, obviously Auntie Asia, Uncle Hussein from the workshop, from the bookshop, I worked alongside him. So it was all the initial directors, and it was amazing to work under their mentorship and learning, because I was quite young. It was my journey, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Then I matriculated, then joined again. So as the years, as I grew, the radio station evolved, and just being part of that growth throughout that time, it was just incredible.
I think that's amazing. And I love that you mentioned, and you said it a few times also, I had to erase, I had to use a pencil, and the rewinding of the cassette tapes and taking the adverts and manually putting those adverts on. And we spoke about that a little while ago also, that it's so easy now with the way technology has it. They don't have to, the technicians that are currently in studio literally have everything lined up for them already. It's just a matter of pressing play. And compared to back in the day when a new advert got recorded and actually burning it onto a CD and running with that CD into the studio. So I'm also almost trying to picture exactly with the picture that you're describing. Tell me, what were some of the other moments that you will forever remember or cherish with your time at radio?
Well, definitely during Ramadan, the huge responsibility was sponsorships, right? Because it was peak period and everybody wanted to sponsor the shows, especially in the last 10 nights. And then I, by some way in error, at the age of 14, put two similar competitor cassettes, one after the other.
Wow.
And it was a primetime sponsorship, and two big companies' adverts played one after the other. Human error. And I got into such big trouble for that. It was a mistake, because it was like, that was my slot. And then I remember one of the directors fetching me from home. It was at like 11 o'clock nightline, to come in to say, how do we fix this? Where's the other cassette? And it was just, so it was very much a manual system that we ran on people. It was not this automated. What I see now when I go into the studios is shocking. Even the sponsored, everything had to be printed and typed. So one little error could compromise an entire show. So that was one of my good memories. Obviously working alongside Auntie Asia at the time, putting together the first Al Ansar Souk, learning about exhibitions. So I think for me personally, a lot of my work experience came from the very, very early years of my life with Al Ansar. I'm forever thankful for that.
Oh, that's beautiful. But then obviously you branched off into many different things as well. I recall the days when you presented a touring KZN program, and you started developing and growing your own personal brand as well. But tell me some of the opportunities that Radio Al Ansar gave you, or maybe just some life lessons that you built on from your time at radio.
Absolutely. Can happily say 24 years later, marketing has become marketing, entrepreneurship, mentoring, training has become a huge part of my life. And what Al Ansar gave me in those early years, we're talking at the age of 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. When I talk to my daughter who's now 15, she hasn't done half of what I did at that early age. So the learnings were very good for my foundation as an entrepreneur and woman in business. It was to take responsibility, to be held accountable, irrelevant of your age. If you say you want to take on that responsibility and do the task, make sure you do it properly.
Mm-hmm.
And then learning so much about advertising and learning about presentation. I spent many hours with Uncle AK in his studio, and there's so much that he taught me over a period of time about vocals, about speaking. And then we dealt with clients who were angry and who were upset when things didn't work out. So it was having the experience at a very young age to be in a position of employment without really being employed, because I was a volunteer at that time, of course. But to have given that opportunity, I believe that a lot of that experience is how I've succeeded in my life as an entrepreneur.
And I think that's so important and such a brilliant life lesson as well to grow on and expand on, because people are looking nowadays also into the networking. I don't think it's emphasized enough or highlighted enough to the newer generation how important volunteering actually is, how important it is to build your circle, because it really does help. Those same resources and those same contacts, like what you mentioned, those people you worked with, you won't hesitate. I mean, till today, if I need something, I still do reach out to you on the occasional basis and vice versa. And everybody still maintains those ties, and it helps. It really does help. And I think the future generation or the younger generation needs to know that and build on that and building their social skills as well. What would you say makes Radio Al Ansar so important today, in this day and age, and your advice to the future generations with regards to maybe volunteering or maybe building ties within their community and networking better?
Look, of course, a lot has changed with radio.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if I walk in there and even spend a day at Al Ansar, I would be like shocked at the way it has evolved. I do still recommend that our generation obviously fits into that kind of system that you've created. There's so many things that have changed. So volunteering will definitely give you the experience based on the culture of the organization. And well, I'm not sure if whoever's in charge now is still very firm and strict. If the volunteers come in, you don't overlook them and say, oh, no, it's just someone that's helping out. It's okay. It was not okay. So I got that sense of accountability and responsibility because you're dealing with the public.
Yes.
You're dealing with an entire community listening in. So that seed was planted, that you take full responsibility, because you can't make silly mistakes because this is radio.
Mm-hmm.
So I would strongly recommend to my own daughter and to other youth, if Al Ansar has the opportunity or the means to do so, to open some sort of voluntary program, because I haven't seen it, perhaps there is one in place, and allow the youth to get involved and give them a sense of responsibility and accountability where it's taken seriously, the experience is going to be hugely beneficial for them when they get into the years of employment and, ComServe or whatever else. Internal, what do you call it, in-service training, whatever path they choose, this would be an amazing foundation for them.
Fantastic. Absolutely. Adila Wahed Naidu, thank you so much for speaking to us this morning. And I trust that you will enjoy the rest of whatever's left of your long weekend. It's been wonderful talking. You've got so much of experience, and I hope one day, inshallah, you're able to come into studio. You're able to meet the new team and be able to talk about all the life lessons and whatever you have learned and benefited from in the past, and be able to speak about that again. I really think you'll be of such benefit to them, and hopefully be able to put that youth mentorship sort of program or volunteer program in action. We definitely can look at working into something like that in the coming year. But thank you so much for speaking to us once again, and have a wonderful Sunday, inshallah.
Thank you, Sama. It's always a pleasure speaking to you and to the listeners of Al Ansar. Thank you for this interview.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
That is Adila Vahed Naidu there that is joining us. She's currently spending time with her family and friends and enjoying what's left of the long weekend. Way back there to the times of cassette players and doing a lot of manual labor, as she says. But yes, that's what a lot of the former staff members are saying, that they always reflect and think of what it was like to actually put in that real hard work. Not that the current team doesn't work hard. I mean, they really do take in all the hours to put in all the efforts, and it has evolved, like you say, over the years as well. So it's the Suday Lounge with a very special flavor and very special edition, where for the month of August, we're going to be speaking to many of the former staff members and former presenters as well. But the clock is almost about to strike 11 o'clock. So we'll go for a quick break, followed by your news. And when we come back, then we talk more of the best nasheeds and more of the latest, whatever is happening in and around Durban or the nasheed industry, and also some of the former presenters and staff. All that and more still to come.
This hadith is sponsored by Ashraful Aid, International Humanitarian Organization.
حديث أدي قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم المرء مع من أحبه. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, a person will be with whom he loves. We should be careful to who we give our hearts to and to who we love. If we love those that are good, we will be with them in the year after. And if we love those that are bad, may Allah save us and protect us.
This hadith is sponsored by Ashraful Aid, International Humanitarian Organization.
Are you looking for a meaningful way to fulfill your zakat obligation? Look no further than Ashraful Aid. With our trusted track record, your zakat reaches those who need it the most in the most honorable and dignified manner. Visit our website at www.ashrafulaid.org.
Sunnah a Day, proudly brought to you by Sunpick, 100% pure sunflower cooking oil. Sunpick, cook more with less.
मेरे नबी प्यारे नबी सुन्नत तेरी दुनिया दी.
Sunnah a day, accept gifts which somebody presents to you, even if they are not to your liking.
Sunnah a Day, proudly brought to you by Sunpick, 100% pure sunflower cooking oil. Sunpick, cook more with less.
Imagine this. You're putting together a 7-color meal, from the creamy pasta to the glazed carrots and flavorful onion gravy. This entire meal is made with our 100% pure extra virgin olive oil from our La Familia range, bringing outstanding quality and taste to your kitchen. Shop La Familia 100% pure extra virgin olive oil at any leading supermarkets near you. La Familia, heart of the home.
An informative Islamic global perspective. This is Al Ansar News.
Making news at 11, a man who went missing on Thursday while rafting in the Tugela River mouth was recovered by joint search operation, and Lebanon's Iran-backed Hezbollah group said it launched yesterday explosive-laden drones at a North Israel army base. Good morning, I'm Tabila Duma. A man who went missing while rafting in the Tugela River mouth on Thursday morning was recovered by a joint search operation. The man fell from his raft in the river mouth and was reported missing. IPSS Search and Rescue, along with Mandeni lifeguards, began the search for the missing man. Drone pilot Alma Frey was called in to assist with locating the victim. Despite difficult conditions with a high tide, the drone located the body approximately 100 meters from the mouth of the river. Mandeni lifeguards, under the guidance of Alma, then retrieved the body and brought it to shore. The operation involved the efforts of Mandeni lifeguards, Rural Metro, and the pilots. Authorities said the use of the drone was crucial in locating the body. In commemoration of Women's Month, KwaZulu-Natal MEC for Transport and Human Settlements Siboniso Duma yesterday joined a successful women-led anti-crime blitz targeting vehicles streaming into the province from Eswatini, Mozambique, Mpumalanga province and other areas. More than 127 vehicles were searched, and police, supported by members of the South African National Defence Force, found items are smuggled from neighboring Mozambique. Duma said about 18 undocumented migrants were also intercepted and detained. During the blitzes, several motorists were fined for driving without a driver's licenses and for failing to display license discs. The operation yesterday involved several agencies, including the KwaZulu-Natal Department of Transport, Road Traffic Inspectorate, Cross-Border Road Transport Agency, the South African Police Service, the SANDF, Umkhanyakude District Municipality officials, and the Department of Home Affairs Immigration Unit. Meanwhile, two investigations into allegations of bribery against the UNISA Chief Financial Officer Reshma Mathura have found that she might be a victim of a smear campaign. Mathura was suspended in April by UNISA Vice-Chancellor Puleng Kabula for a string of charges, including that in terms of a whistleblower tip-off. It is alleged that Mathura had received bank deposits and/or money from UNISA students in an irregular manner, which warrants for further investigation. A publication said that it has reliably learned that an independent internal investigation had cleared Mathura of any wrongdoing and found that instead there was malice by the whistleblower in raising unsubstantiated allegations. The students who were alleged to have made the deposit into Mathura's account also denied the allegations. Mathura was the first to suspect of foul play and reported the matter to the police, the bank and the university. That investigation has established that one of the accounts which was used had been fraudulently opened. Mathura, who is represented by AfriForum's private prosecution unit, has also been charged with contravening the university policies for sharing, without authorization or consent, personal and private information, that is, bank account numbers of UNISA personnel, with external parties in contravention with the university's policies and the laws of the Republic of South Africa. In that probe, the police were investigating how some service providers were able to invoice the university millions of rands, claiming that they have done some work at the university's Rustenburg building without even setting foot on the premises. The funds were also allegedly paid from an account whose sole purpose was for new buildings instead of renovations. In a letter sent to the university on the 5th of August, AfriForum unit head Harinal said that the continued suspension of Mathura was unlawful and malicious. In more news, the relationship between African Congress for Transformation Party leader Esma Khashule and Umkhonto weSizwe Party leader Jacob Zuma is seemingly on rocky ground after the former president welcomed 11 expelled ACT members to his home state in Nkandla last month. Makhashule and Zuma, two former top ANC leaders, have been long-term friends and close allies. They both formed breakaway parties after their fallout with Luthuli House. Zuma was expelled from the ANC on the 29th of July this year, while Makhashule was sent packing a year ago for refusing to step aside after corruption charges were leveled against him. It's understood that members of Makhashule's party have tried to urge the ACT leader to align with the MK party and form a pact. However, he underplayed those suggestions. A news agency reported that its source said that Makhashule's unpleasant reaction to the party's members' visit to Zuma on the 23rd of July raised eyebrows, considering that the two were very close. Ironically, earlier this year, Makhashule announced the party's amalgamation. He said that the Makhashule-Zuma United Front would mark a departure from traditional politics towards a more inclusive, people-centric approach. However, things have since changed. And finally, Lebanon's Iran-backed Hezbollah group said it launched yesterday explosive-laden drones at a North Israel army base following the killing of a Hamas commander in South Lebanon a day earlier. Hezbollah's media office said it was the first time that the group had targeted the base. On Friday, an Israeli strike on a vehicle in the south of Lebanon city of Sedan killed a Hamas commander, the Palestinian group and the Israeli military said. Hamas said in a statement that Samir al-Hajj was killed in the strike. The Israeli military said that its aircraft struck the Sedan area and eliminated Hajj, whom it identified as a senior commander for Hamas in Lebanon. 10 months of cross-border violence has killed some 562 people in Lebanon, most of them fighters, but also including at least 116 civilians. Taking a look at the temperatures, Durban is at 16 to 24, Richards Bay 17 to 27, Ulundi 13 to 32, Ladysmith 9 to 30, and Margate is at 14 to 23. Your weather in Pietermaritzburg is at 12 to 24, and Newcastle is at 7 to 28. For Al Ansar News, I'm Tabila Duma.
This August, we unwrap Radio Al Ansar from the beginning. A documentary-like series on the birth of KZN's only Islamic radio station. A journey of hope, belief, community and passion. Follow the Suday Lounge as we take you through the evolution of community radio with a dynamic team. A nostalgic month-long special filled with highlights of the best of Radio Al Ansar. The highs, lows, behind the scenes in a trip down memory lane with the original presenters, staff and management over the years. With me, Salma Kazi Wahab on the Suday Lounge every Sunday between 10 and 12. Heartfelt conversation on an inspiring journey with the women of Radio Al Ansar.
A reminder that in the atrium overport, you will find Chippewa Spur, our halal steak sizzle. Our beef ribs are delicious and our burgers are legendary. The combos are perfect for big appetites. We have plant-based options too and mouth-watering desserts. Pop in anytime for all your favorite Spur food. We are open from 8 in the morning to 9 p.m. Chippewa Spur at the atrium. People with a taste for life.
They convinced the world to believe that terrorists look like beards and thobes. Now, as the facade cracks, one martyr after another, the world sees through the broken windows and now knows the true face of terrorism. It wears suits and ties and smiles behind lies.
اللهم احفظ المسجد الأقصى من اليهود الحاقدين. اللهم أعد المسجد الأقصى إلى رحاب المسلمين. اللهم وطهر المسجد الأقصى من اليهود الغاصبين. اللهم عليك بهم فإنهم لا يعجزونك يا قوي يا متين. اللهم منزل الكتاب مجري السحاب هازم الأحزاب سريع الحساب اهزم اليهود وزلزلهم يا قوي يا عزيز.
And I sing my songs of innocence to you, my precious child, as you lay on your bed with your sleepy eyes and your heavy head. Rest and dream in peace till morning comes again. I will sing my songs of innocence. I will sing my songs of innocence. Allahu, Allahu, La ilaha illahu, Allahu, Allahu.
Assalamu alaikum, it's Nazarene Ibrahim here, and it's really great to be able to share some memories, both personal and professional, of my journey with Radio Al Ansar. It's wonderful to hear the commemoration of the 12 years of the full-time broadcasting license. So my journey goes back to 2010. I was 28 at the time. Started reading the news. It was my first news reading gig, which was really cool and very exciting. It was a good opportunity to understand everything I had learned about broadcast, print, and TV, and all types of broadcast, and to put that into play. It's a really good training ground. Then I had an opportunity, because I was between jobs, to start working as an assistant with the then Al Ansar Souk, which everyone knows, but was a little bit different to how it is now. It was very much a huge affair at the time. I had a chance to work with the founders, Mr. Riaz Jamal, Mr. Azim Baks, and a few others. It was really an interesting time. I was very young, so to see these leaders in action was quite awe-inspiring. I do remember at the age of 28, in that year, I registered a business, and I was really keen to start running my business. So I put together a presentation. I was going to pitch at a place with a local business where I was going to do a trade exchange. And I remember going to Auntie Asia at the time and asking, could I please borrow the projector for my presentation? And I promised I would bring it back that afternoon. And she had said to me, she'd ask Uncle Riaz at the time. She got the permission. I used it, brought it back in one piece, returned it as promised. And I'll never forget that. It was an important moment because I was pitching. I did get the opportunity for the trade exchange. The meeting went very successfully. But being so young, it was interesting to see how I was looked after. And it was just wonderful to see how I was looked after at the time. So I'll never forget that. I also remember just such great memories. But my mother's sisters who lived in Maritzburg at the time, my khalas, they were much older, but also at the time their individual families had passed away, and they relied on Al Ansar very much as family members. So every time we would call them to catch up, you'd hear it in the background, or every time we visited, it would always be on. And it was really such a special thing to hear the way they interacted with just having the radio on at home and listening to every show and just having it as a companion almost. So I remember those are really great memories for me. And that even I found out when I hosted for a short while Saturday Night Live, which was a talk show at the time, quite a few years ago. And I would get much older callers after the show had finished in studios saying to me that Radio Al Ansar is a companion for them, and they wouldn't know what they would do if they hadn't had a station like this. Went on to present other shows like We Mean Business, and these days usually have very delighted to have an opportunity to share some insights around technology and communications. But pretty much for my family and I, Radio Al Ansar has been a great part of our lives and continues to be so. And it's good to remember these things. And I wish the station all of the very best on celebrating 12 years of full-time broadcasting. And here's to many more years, inshallah.
Blessings on him and his family, and all will follow in his blessed way. You and I, my child, may we among them be. You and I, my child, may we among them be. Allahu, Allahu, La ilaha illahu. Sing a song of love and innocence. Will you help me find my way back home? Will you fill my heart with innocence? May I come to you innocent. Let me sing my song of innocence.
The voice of Talib al-Habib, Songs of Innocence. Again, one of those artists that we always played a lot of as well back in the day. He never really produced much work after that. That was one of his albums, Songs of Innocence, and other nasheeds there from his album, which we used to play a lot of. Ahmed Abu Ghazare, a lot of Zain Bika also was always requested. Bina Mi, Zammi Looney also I've got lined up. So inshallah, we'll try and squeeze in all those ones that used to be requested before. A listener said, Oh Shaitan by Zain Bika was another one that used to be very frequently requested by the listeners. We're live on Facebook as well, so welcome to our Facebook viewers and listeners also that always regularly watch in the show. A reminder also, many people do sometimes don't realize that you can go back and watch the Facebook shows as well. So most of the shows, so if you missed the Nightline shows with Muhammad Variawa, you missed that Nostalgia 12-year commemoration show with Faisal Suleiman, Muhammad Variawa, AB Dawji. It was a really fun show, and you learned a lot about the beginning of Al Ansar, Radio Al Ansar itself. You can go back and find that on Facebook. You'll hear the school matches shows, the gardening shows, and everything else. The live shows from Sultan Bahu as well. Everything that has been happening, or most of the shows, you will be able to access on Facebook. If you need the actual program podcast, you can find that on Spotify as well. So if you go into Radio Al Ansar, most of our shows, including Sunday Lounge programs, are all uploaded onto Spotify. So you can listen at your convenience. Even the show that we did, S Factor, with the social network with Zahir Basa during the week, is all up on Spotify as well. So most of the shows are loaded there if you need to hear them or listen to them again. We had a query pertaining to the Women's Day event. If you are able to call the officers during the week, even if you call them and tell them to keep tickets aside for you and maybe do some sort of EFT or something, then I'm sure that will work. Speak to the outreach department. You don't have to actually physically come. The bookshop is open on a Sunday. It is open, I think, between 10 and 1. Zakaria, I think it closes because by the time I'm leaving, the bookshop is usually still open. So I think it closes at 1 o'clock. So the Al Ansar bookstore will be open if you want to come and physically purchase your ticket. But if you're unable to come through in that time, you can call in during the week to the offices, tell them who you are, maybe request the banking details so you can make payments and reserve your tickets for the Women's Day event that is on the 24th of August. But right now we have with us in studio two esteemed guests that are joining me in studio. Listener says, lovely going down memory lane. I remember Wahid. Hey, I need to play a Wahid one as well. That was also most commonly requested. The original group there, Wahid. But for now, as in most of our shows for this month of August, I'm bringing them in. I'm digging them out of the archives and taking them out of their comfort zones again. I'm going and hustling and finding who are the original staff members that used to be working with us, whose brains did we pick on back in the day, who were the ones really running around and making sure that radio was producing the best content to get us to where we are today. That were behind the scenes taking minutes for the meetings and running between the requests of Riaz Jamal, Asya Ahmad and the teams, and also holding breath there that the presenters like us don't really say the wrong things on air or cause more problems for them or whatever it may be. So we're honored to have with us in studio today none other than Shakira Sayed, who has been an amazing part of the program. We're going to talk to her about her history with Al Ansar as well. And we had many shows that weren't together. I don't think we co-hosted, but we did shows concurrently at the same time. And we'll talk to her about the programs that she did on Al Ansar as well. You'll know the voice when you hear it. And if you do, you can pop us a message on WhatsApp, 0609041056. I know I have a lot of the OG listeners that still listening to the programs and remember every little thing that we did back in the day. But I also want to welcome Sister Fatima Henry to Al Ansar as well, and to the new Radio Al Ansar. And Fatima also as a part of Al Ansar from way back in the 189 West Road days. And we did have on my previous program, Aisha Beg and the others, Shabnam Ismail, and them that formed a part of the program. We've spoken to Sakina. We've heard from all of the team members behind radio programming, and that is what Fatima was very much a part of as well. Let's start with Fatima. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. There we go. That's right, Mike. It's so good to have you. Firstly, welcome. And thank you for honoring the invitation and coming all the way to our 207 West Road Al Ansar studios.
I'm really honored to be here. Jazakallah for thinking of me and inviting me over.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. We had to, because we cannot commemorate 12 years of Al Ansar going full-time without really thinking of how did we get to this point and the memories and the journey that it took to actually get here. So let's just rewind the tape a little bit to how did you actually get into radio and what was your, I wouldn't say designation because you pretty much did everything, but what are some of the work that you was involved in right at the beginning?
Right at the beginning, when I came into Al Ansar, I started as the receptionist.
Yeah.
And then I worked my way up onto being PA for Sister Asya.
Mm-hmm.
And then assisting Mr. Riaz Jamal with, selecting nasheeds and who's going to be coming down for souk for that year, which was the most exciting times for me.
Was choosing the artist.
Choosing the artist, because we'd be like, I chose that person and that person is coming, and it used to be like so fun. He always gave us opportunity. He never gave us a deaf ear. He would take into consideration whatever we said or thought. also I was always into the Hajj seminar, coordinating the Hajj seminar, which Sister Asya Ahmad, Allah grant her Jannat al-Firdaus, I owe a lot to, because she was a real big inspiration and motivation for me. Because from that receptionist who could barely answer a phone, she pushed me right up to levels I never imagined I would go to.
You did. You were very instrumental behind the Hajj seminar organizations and the coordinations of that. And also, Sakina mentioned last week that you were very much behind the ICASA application also.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that. What was that like every time we had to renew our license? Because it wasn't just Ramadan. Eventually, it was Hajj. Then we had to apply for Sira and other things. What was that like at the end of every broadcast, or how did that work?
For us, okay, I used to work directly under Auntie Asya.
Right.
So Auntie Asya and I, we used to get Uncle Rashad to take us. We'll go into town, we'll apply.
For the listeners to know, Uncle Rishad has been the Al Ansar designated driver for the longest time. So that's just to give the listeners an understanding. Carry on, sorry.
So no, we both used to go through, we'll apply, and then we'd like sit on edge waiting for response for the application.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment we know we've got this application, we start phoning presenters, because like I'll be coordinating all of that. Who's going to do Juma Roundup? Who's going to do the sports show? Hafiz Wadi used to always do the iftar show and stuff, because it's initially Ramadan was the most important one.
Right.
And the listeners, the people, I think all of Overport would cross their fingers that we're going to get that license.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of running around. There used to be stacks and stacks, thick loads of pages just for one application.
Right.
And Alhamdulillah, when we used to get it, it used to be like the biggest relief for everyone. We got to know everyone in that way. And it was like just like the best thing that ever happened to us. And then when we started getting it, I think we got it for four times per year.
Yeah.
And then everyone always just looked forward to that. Once one ended, we start wrapping up everything and we start with the next application. So that's how it went. But it was a lot of hard work, but it educated us in every single way.
Now, working in programming now, and like you mentioned, now preparing for each broadcast, you had to now relook at the content for the broadcast, like what programs were coming on. What were some of the presenters or the programs that you were most looking forward to each broadcast? You don't have to be biased now. We're just saying whichever ones you were necessarily looking forward to listening, because like you mentioned, it was always about educational, it was learning, because I did mention this previously as well. We had to concentrate so much of information into those 30 days because we didn't have the full-time license.
Okay.
So what were some of the programs that you remember the most or were most significant at that time, you think, for the community?
It was always Salma's show, not because I'm on your show, but it was your show. It was always also Sister Shakira's show, because people used to look forward to her. People used to call from Escort, from all places, just to find out about it, to send her one chocolate. They would send one chocolate all the way from Escort for her because they used to like her show. Dil Badal there, which Sister Asya is the one who even started that. She was like the chief of it. The Juma Roundup, because I used to be the one phoning every single person for every single masjid. And Alhamdulillah, I used to get positive responses from all the people. If I can tell you, all the shows were good, because each and every presenter, they got along with us. We were like family.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like you were afraid to speak to someone or put out your opinion to the person, because they were always accepting. We were like a real family. It was the best experience.
And the true family spirit was when you sit and eat together. Nah?
Yeah, our Juma lunches.
Juma lunches, and then putting the studio lights off to have a good meal in the studio.
And what about me and you when it used to be souk time? The indoor stage, we used to go and get that rice and strips. And
oh, wow. What amazing times. Let's bring in Shakira Said now into the program for the first time in I don't know how many years on the airwaves of Radio Al Ansar once again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
It's been a long time. It's been a really long time. And it's a lot with a lot of present. Now you're making me emotional now. It's been the longest time for a lot of the presenters and the staff to talk about this and to talk about where it all started. When you hear now Fatima talking about what it was like when the broadcast, we were getting prepared to go on and those calls would come. Okay, are you available? Here's the dates. the next 30 days. And the Shakira would come in with her manageress at the time, Rihanna said, who just took on that role and assumed. And Rihanna was brilliant. We should have her on as well one of the days to talk about it. But just the work that went into it. And you are not just somebody that just happened to just come in, by the way, just for a job or anything like that. It's something that you studied. It was your work. It was your passion. And we all knew about it. No, Shakira's coming with this journalism background and the media expert. But tell us a little bit about how your journey began with radio at the time.
Well, firstly, thank you so much, Jazakallah, for having me on the show and on your show this morning. I'm loving where the Suday Lounge has been and where it's going as well, inshallah. And sorry for my voice this morning. I'm just getting over the flu gremlins over the last few weeks. But nonetheless, alhamdulillah, I am back here, and it feels so good to be back and be back in studio. My story goes way back. In fact, I was just chatting to you about it earlier off air, about how it started. And it was my two careers that were intertwined at the time. Back in the day, I was very involved with the AMS schools, so the Association of Muslim Schools organization. And that was quite a few schools at the time. And I happened to be attending one of I think it was the Al-Azhar School of Durban's Sports Day.
Okay.
And it was at the Kings Park Athletic Stadium. And I attended as part of a sports coach and part of the sports side of things. And Uncle AK Jingles, AK Muhammad, was the MC and the announcer for the sports. And I happened to be around the announcer's table and tent, and he handed me the mic and he said, I just need you to make this announcement. And this was probably in 2004 or 2005. And I quickly made this announcement, and he was quite taken aback. And
I can imagine how that announcement must have sounded.
And he was quite taken aback, alhamdulillah, by the way that I had made the announcement, but then also as I just kept going. And alhamdulillah, I managed to just go with it and go with the flow and improvise and on the spot, get the crowd going, get the kids going from the school. And I think obviously being involved with the school gives you that confidence as well, and it's also a comfort zone. Anything with children, I was always involved in and interested in. And I really was just doing it for the sake of the kids at the time. And then he, made me do it again, and then he made me do it again. And I think he kind of just handed over his job for the day to me that day. And then after that, he came forward and he spoke to me about it. And the community he is absolutely no stranger to the KZN community, in fact, internationally as well. And I can get into that later, why. But it was my first point of Radio Al Ansar, and my first point of contact to this lovely radio station was AK Jingles. And then I think it happened on the weekend. And then on the Monday morning, he had asked me, he had his own recording studios at the time, and still does. And he said to me, please come in, and I want to have a meeting with you. And that's how he came forward to Asia Ahmad. And Auntie Asia was the station manager with Riaz Jamal as well. And he said, I've got a voice for you guys. And they said, okay, bring her in. And I literally came in and went into the office, and he says, this is one of your new voices. Please, I just want you to put her on air. And, it was like, okay, fine. This new face, this new person, completely a stranger to the airwaves. And that's how it all started. And I think from 2005, 2006, my story with Radio Al Ansar started. And that's how I came in. I started off as a community presenter, community announcement presenter.
We spoke about that the other day, the community announcement.
Continuity at the time.
The
continuity presenter. And funny enough, when I went into studying media and broadcasting, there was a part of it that I had to cover TV production. And continuity actually meant areas along the way and how your frames continue between each frame.
Wow.
And it was actually so great because a continuity presenter at Radio Al Ansar was to keep things flowing. And so that if there was anything between shows or between ad breaks or between major community announcements, because that's what we used community radio for, you know, where the community would get major announcements or official announcements across to the wider community. And, you know, that's where sometimes we would come in and perhaps like how Fatima mentioned, there were a few areas along the way and I would cover those as well. And then you'd kind of rescue the situation in between and you just lighten things up again. And then going into, you know, media, TV production and broadcasting, that's where I said, I realized what continuity also was from a TV perspective. And it was just amazing how both radio and television and media just gelled together so nicely. So having that role and being that continuity presenter for me at the time was such an honor. And it obviously evolved into other presenting and other roles at the radio station, which we can discuss further.
Definitely. What a beautiful way to really think as to how things started for everybody. And we speak about that continuity subject all the time because we said a lot of the time now that the shows do go from one to the next. And little old me comes in every time and says, you know, back in the day, we used to do this thing between the shows. And that was all our first opportunities on air. And there was Fatima Baks at the time as well. And we spoke about her and how we would come on. We were so excited just to make that one Halim announcement or some random something.
And also, it's continuity was also provided also a space for advertisements. So you'd have your recorded advertisements and you'd have your sponsored adverts, but then you'd also have readout adverts. And then when I got into the community and I got into the continuity presenting, then I think a lot of the other advertisers and the sponsors and the little, you know, shops or the little businesses got to understand that this was also a form of advertising.
Yeah.
And Radio Al Ansar covered that perfectly. Alhamdulillah, I must say, from a lot of radio stations and community radio stations, especially talk show radio stations, I felt that Radio Al Ansar really covered that and really took off with that very nicely and professionally, if I must say so as well. And that's where the presenting and then your recitations and your reading and things and where the excitement of how it was to be advertising a particular brand or particular shop or particular company was so exciting, because then you almost became associated with the person, the brand, the name, the shop, the sponsor. And that's probably one of my highlights, which I know you said we'll chat about, but that's where you just built up your network and you built up your own community as well. And you kind of built up your own little family also. And that's where my radio family built up from, was not just what was happening inside here and on air and in studio, and also with our studio technicians and presenters and fellow presenters and station managers, but also the wider community that became my community family that I eventually had to say goodbye to, but saying hello again now.
Hey, once you start talking and the wheels start turning, it's hard to stop.
We might find on the shows.
I'm telling you,
next week. Fatima, she's still at her job. She's still at her job.
She'll come up with a program for you.
She would literally, you'd be walking out of ready now to go home. You've done your show. You've done everything. It's gone well. And you're walking out and you're saying, Assalamu alaikum, Fatima. I'll see you tomorrow.
Wait. I need you to record this
I
for
need
me.
you to just do this for me quickly. Actually, Mr. So-and-so phoned to say that he needs this.
We're going to talk more. We've got Fatima Henry and Shakira Sayed with us in studio today. We're reminiscing about what it was like getting that full-time license. Here's Mahir Zain, Close to You.
I can say, just say, Allah, 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 Allah. I see the sun, the stars, the moon. I join them all in praising you. Allah, 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 Allah. I feel alive and I feel so good. I feel so close to you. And everywhere I look around me, your creation's so wonderful. And the more that I think about it, makes me love you even more. How the river finds the way to the valley, it's just so magical. And the way the night turns into day, it's a miracle. Oh, I love it. 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 Allah, 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 Allah. I see the sun, the stars, the moon. I join them all in praising you. Allah, 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 Allah. I feel alive and I feel so good. I feel so close to you. Oh.
This August, we unwrap Radio Al Ansar from the beginning. A documentary-like series on the birth of KZN's only Islamic radio station. A journey of hope, belief, community, and passion. Follow the Suday Lounge as we take you through the evolution of community radio with a dynamic team. A nostalgic month-long special filled with highlights of the best of Radio Al Ansar. The highs, lows, behind the scenes, and a trip down memory lane with the original presenters, staff, and management over the years. With me, Salma Kazi Wahab, on the Suday Lounge every Sunday between 10 and 12. Heartfelt conversation on an inspiring journey with the women of Radio Al Ansar.
You've tried the rest, now come to the best. Vodacom Shop for smartphones, tablets, laptops, routers, SIM cards, gaming, and the latest accessories to complete the look. Home and business internet to ensure that you have the best connection everywhere you go. Plug and play to fully installed fiber. Our infrastructure provides a resilient platform for your critical business applications, which will help your business perform best. Get the right amount of everything. Vodacom Shop at the Pavilion Entrance 6, Westwood Mall, Bluff Towers, The Workshop, Umlazi Megacity, City View, Bridge City Kwamashu, Brookside Mall Pietermaritzburg, and the Nelson Mandela Square Sandton.
Are you tired of boring chows that make you yawn louder than your mother-in-law's words? Then perk up those taste buds and head on down to J-Mo's Pizza and Grill. From breakfast to bedtime bites, we've got it all. Chicken tikka, shish kebabs to cheddar steak sandwiches. Swing by and pull into Saxony Westwood Mall's food court. Open daily. Catch us Sunday to Thursday from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. And on Fridays and Saturdays, we're serving up sizzle till 9 p.m. We deliver. Call us on 082-678-5062. J-Mo's, where every meal's a flavor fiesta. Hee-haw!
Every day's a good day.
Did you hear? Your favorite 24-hour dentist has moved. Crown Dental Studio, offering everything your smile needs, from general to cosmetic dentistry. Female practitioner now available upon request. Call us on 081-207-8621 to schedule your next appointment. Or visit our new studio at 26 McCuton Avenue, Durban North. Crown Dental Studio, your 24-hour dentist.
Are you the woman who wants to be part of a sisterhood? Are you seeking motivation to better yourself? Then Muslima Today is for you, featuring Dr. Naledi Pandor, Amina Khatri Jamal, Mulana Zakaria Hanika, Sheikh Ismail Kamdar, and a discussion with 3 revert Muslimas. Muslima Today takes place in Durban on Sunday, 18th August. Tickets and information at www.ilmsa.co.za. @outreach.co.za/MT2024 or WhatsApp 083-271-4500.
The Outreach Slice of Life campaign. Since its inception, our Slice of Life has touched the lives of countless individuals through our distribution to schools, old age homes, orphanages, and deserving families within our community. This initiative has been instrumental in alleviating hunger. For only 9 Rand a loaf, you will be providing a family with their daily staple, bread. Donate now on www.alansar.org.za or call Outreach on 031 208 1601.
Salma Ghazi on Radio Al Ansar.
He stepped inside his home, he was overwhelmed with fear. An angel came with words from God, things were still unclear. Saying, read, read, but he could not read. Amazing words that he heard. A trembling deep inside his heart, confused by what had occurred. There was only one who could comfort him, to help him see the light, to ease his fears, to reassure, was Khadija, his wife. He said, Zammiluni, Zammiluni, Dathiruni, Dathiruni, a mighty task has come before me. I need you here with me, by my side, by my side.
The voice of Zain Bika. This was Zambiluni. A listener actually said, I didn't know that Asya Ahmad had actually passed away. May Allah Ta'ala grant her Jannatul Firdaus, inshallah. I mean, yes, on the beginning of the series, we spoke to Sayyida Nisa Sayed about Sister Asya, and she passed away in 2020. She said just that year with COVID and so forth. And it's almost unreal because every single person that we've spoken to mentions her name and mentions Marhum Riaz Jamal as well. And they very much, if I may say, and it's no exaggeration, I feel like they're very much alive, even with the whole 12-year license and everything and this full-time. I almost feel them in this building. Some people say, no, it's although it's newer staff, it's newer presenters, a whole new team, you feel them, you see them, and you think of them all the time. And may they be rewarded for everything that is happening even today as well. We joined with us in studio today. We have, again, as part of our series on the Suday Lounge, getting to know some of the former staff members and the former presenters as well. We spoke to Sister Ajla Vahed Naidu earlier as well, who also was there from her Maryam B. Madrasa days. What beautiful stories to hear as well. Shakira Sayed, as well as Fatima Henry, who worked directly in radio programming and also as a receptionist. Initially, that was what she came in as. But of course, as is with Al Ansar, you never just do one task. You're always expected to be do anything and everything you could possibly get your hands on. But it's empowering also. But you played an important role, Fatima, and I want to talk about that in liaising with the community. We know what Al Ansar means to the community today. People say radio is dying. That radio, no podcasts are out now. People are not doing this. Who's listening to radio anymore? But I strongly feel it's the opposite. I really feel radio plays such an important role in our community today, and we need to highlight that it does play a significant role. How important did you see Radio Al Ansar as to the community? Like, what would you hear feedback from the listeners? I know they used to call you, and you knew the listeners by their names. You knew who was calling. You used to listen to their stories, and they used to phone you and confide in you. Tell us about that.
Okay. Well, Radio Al Ansar at our time played like a really big role in a lot of people's lives, especially the elderly, because there were many of them that were very lonely. They had no family members that were staying with them, or they didn't have anything. They called Radio Al Ansar their companion. So they would call in continuously asking when we're going to be back on air. And if we were on air for every single show, we would have certain callers. And when we would like give them a prize, they would be like so happy. It's like you made a change in their life. You acknowledge them. You make them feel important. And like every single show that we had, they had their own fans people loved certain presenter, certain thing, they would come into studio just to see that presenter and ask for autographs, and then sometimes leave pages in front and tell me when they come out, tell him to sign an autograph for me or sign a board for me. And I know, as Sister Shakira and I were speaking just now, there was a day when she was ill and she didn't come in to do her show. And if I tell you, the phones were ringing off the hook, that I had to literally tell her, please don't ever get sick again, because if you get sick, I have to sit and answer
today,
the
but
call.
she still came, right?
I have to answer calls for you. You know, Al-Ansar was the light of everyone's home.
Yeah.
There were certain people who wouldn't know what time they need to break fast, what time they need to make seri. Al-Ansar was helping them with that. These days, okay, you can phone in to
Google it.
Jamia, to Google for fatwa. Al-Ansar educated the entire ummah in this way. And I believe that the reason Radio Al-Ansar went such a long way and is now international, it's because of the good work that was done by the directors at that time. Their intention was pure, and that is why this place became what it is today.
Oh, beautifully put there, Fatima. That is absolutely, and you were nervous about talking, but subhanallah, no, really, it really is. It has come the longest way, and it has left quite a legacy and quite a mark. Shakira, when you think about that now, signing the ball, I'm sure you must have some point left soccer balls there to give away or something. If I recall, you used to come with your own prizes that you used to give.
Alhamdulillah.
What was that like for you? The interaction with, who were the people you would interact with mostly at that time, and your interaction with the community also? Share some light on that.
Yeah, when you mentioned the soccer balls, Fatima, I actually laughed at that because that was me.
Yes.
I put up my hand there. So taking it back to, building your networks, building your own community, and still years later, again, a big thank you to those individuals and companies out there that obviously we're not going to do any free advertising right now.
Wish we could.
But to all of those that I had to build relationships with, and you had to go out on your own, and you had to do that. You had to build a working relationship. You had to build a networking relationship with people. You had to go and sell Radio Al-Ansar to these people, to these companies, to these sponsors. And our advertising team, who also I worked closely with as well, not just on the on-air side of things, but also having to work with them because there was a certain sponsor or there was a certain company or organization that wanted my specific voice on their advert or for their advert. It wasn't about the it had to just be that voice only, or it wasn't just about the fact that we did it well, so we know that we should be given that. We weren't owed anything. It was all a team effort. It was all work in process and work in progress as well.
Yes.
Learning from mistakes, learning from mishaps along the way, learning how to deal with the advertiser, learning how to deal with the client, learning how to deal with each other as well. It was all, like Fatima said, it was the essence of the community, but it was also growing the community and growing together as a community. So we literally had to do those things, was go out and let people know who Radio Al-Ansar was. We spoke for Radio Al-Ansar, and we held that pride, and we held that joy in our hearts, and that essence and that intentions in our hearts for bettering and benefiting the radio station, growing the radio station, uplifting the radio station, uplifting each other's programs, uplifting each other's shows, uplifting each other's promos. If I knew that I had a strength in particular voiceovers or particular, and I went into that later on, actually, as part of my job was voiceover artistry. But when it all started out, that's what we had to do on our own. We had to say, you know what, we can do this for you, and build that trust in the community, which then I think that's how we got it back. And we just did whatever we could to keep that trust in the community. and vice versa. So some of the people that I remember also working with and building that relationship with for prizes, for example, Salma, that was the exciting part of the shows. Like when you had prizes and you had things to give away.
And when people called.
It was, yes.
People don't call anymore.
And it was quite funny because during the ad break, I was like, can't we speak to people?
No, they don't call.
That was my show. There was never enough time.
Yeah.
There was never enough time. There wasn't a blank, silent moment. I always made sure I came in, and Salma might remember this, fully prepared and over prepared. And the one thing Salma said to me today, and the one thing Salma said to me today was before the show was, or before I came on, was, let's not script it. It doesn't need to be scripted or anything. And alhamdulillah, we had a good balance of that.
Yeah.
We did, I was always prepared, but over prepared if I needed to be, because if I needed to throw in something, or if I had those days and moments, like I was telling you ladies earlier, where Mr. Riaz Jamal would literally call in to my sound engineer Farhad at the time. And this was the morning drive show. You're talking prime time, prime radio time, prime radio show in the morning, peak radio show. And he calls and he says, tell her to please just go on for another 15 minutes. And you're like, this is radio. You're on live radio. And that's why we had to have those connections with people.
Yes.
Because if I thought, and I was very, because also my drive show was very current and covered current affairs as well as obviously magazine, lifestyle, but mostly current affairs and your news and your views, your opinions, those kind of things that were the hardcore part of things, but also keeping people enlightened every single day, because it was your calendar shows.
Yeah.
I would need to call up someone and I'd be like, my station manager just told me that I need to be on for another half an hour or 15 minutes and I need someone. And then I would think, okay, this is happening in sport or this is happening in environment. And then I would call someone up. And Salma, I still actually have my I don't know if we use address books anymore. We obviously don't. But I have my address book with my contacts, my media contacts.
I came into studio this week with a book and pen and everyone laughed at me. And I said, but we all did it.
I have it in a box. And that was something that was kept so safe.
It's like a treasure now.
Now we have the POPIA Act as well.
Yeah.
But it is a treasure because there were names and numbers and contacts in there.
All
that
were
all my sources, all my resources. I had political sources, I had my sports sources, I had lifestyle sources, people in whether it was motivational speaking, whether it was authors of books. I can mention a couple of
so many memories.
Few politicians where I literally had mayors' numbers, sports people's numbers, international and national, and that was it was like your book of networks.
There's books of networks.
The relationships and the bridges that you do build along the way is what also makes you who you are.
That's
and what builds the radio station, especially in community radio. And I think that's just a reminder that although things are moving rapidly and has technologically improved and has become, obviously social media has taken the world by storm as well. And everything's out there. Everything is, in real time as well. We also just need to sometimes be reminded to just take a step back or just come back down now and again and just, remind ourselves of the intention, what we do, what purpose are we doing it for? and everything with pure intentions is, inshallah, always a success.
Wow. We're like literally 5 minutes away from wrapping up the program. So, Fatima, I'm going to ask you your final words, your message, perhaps. How do you envision Radio Al Ansar, and maybe to the current staff, to the current people that are in your position right now, the people that are doing that, to think this is now a full-time 7 days a week thing. It's not something where we have to constantly renew that application. It is a job to many people now. And it is different to, yes, when it was a seasonal radio station, but we are commemorating 12 years of a full-time broadcaster. It's now every day. You have to keep up with politics. You have to keep up with the Islamic calendar also. You have to, it's hard work for the programming team, for the sales team, for the many departments that now exist. Whereas before, yes, it was a few individuals that used to have multiple roles. But if you were to give a message to them today and to perhaps the future generations, what would you say to them, and what would your advice be?
Okay, so first I'm going to say I may not have too much of knowledge on radio and like what's happening right now with radio. But from what I experienced in radio, if you're passionate, if you give your all, if you have the love for what you're doing, you are going to be successful. Another thing is, I know that you said there's a lot to do now with programming and stuff.
Yeah.
There is a lot, but with technology, it's like even just a click away. When we were doing radio programming, we literally had to go take paper and pen and draft upon draft until we got it correct. And alhamdulillah, we were fortunate to meet people and have people like Auntie Asya and Mr. Jamal and all the wonderful people that were in our lives, because they were the ones who stood behind us and they pushed us and they taught us everything that we knew, because we came from knowing nothing about radio. So to say, if I want to give advice, I'd say that if you're passionate and you put your heart and you have the love for what you're doing, then you will grow and you will prosper in this field.
For sure, you definitely will. If I were to ask you, if somebody were to tell you what were the I don't want to put anyone in trouble, but like, did anyone ever really get to you back in the day, or did anything ever like you, I would never set foot and do it again only because of XYZ? Like, I know sometimes we had the listener dramas, we had the complaints, or what really stood out for you as some of the most craziest times, if you had to think now at the top of your head? Was it a presenter, a tantrum, or was it maybe something the directors would tell you, something like that? Nothing too incriminating, but like, yeah.
I don't think, I can be very honest, I don't think, and I'm not like saying I don't have a memory of it, I don't think there was any time that I had such a situation, because from the people that came from overseas, artists, to the people, we were fortunate even enough to have the Medina delegate.
When the Haram Imams came.
We used to have them here. We were such, at that time, I think everyone that worked at Al Ansar, we were fortunate, because we met the likes of Junaid Jamshed, Milad Raza Khadri. We met.
You were in the golden era.
Yes, and I used to run the VIP lounge, so I used to be one-on-one with all these people. So alhamdulillah, I always got along with everyone, and I never had any problems or issues with any person or presenter, because like I said, we were family.
Hang on, were you there when Sheikh Yaqubi and everyone came to the studio as well? Was that you, Sheikh?
Yes.
Well, that was your time as well, or if I recall correctly, and we had the shuyukh that used to always pop into the studio every chance they got. So final words from you as well. I think we need a part 2 show, but with Shakira. But you did, just quickly to give the listeners an idea of the types of shows that you did, and the final words from you as well.
So as mentioned earlier, it started off as the continuity presenter. It then moved into the news side of things. So I was the newsreader on Siraj Basa's morning breakfast show at the time. So I was part of that team. And we had the traffic guy, we had the sports guy, in fact, I covered the sports news as well as the current affairs news. I did that, and then Siraj was the head presenter of the show. And then from there, after Siraj had the morning breakfast show, it moved on to me, and I took over, and then I had my team as well, which The AM drive would never have been the AM drive if it was not for the team and the producers behind the show. Hasina Gori and I was probably one of the closest people and the longest standing people that I worked with from a producing side of things, as well as being my journalist and my news journalist on the show. And obviously the show ran for a couple of years, and she was always by my side from that side of things. I had a sports guy as well, and if I can quickly just tell you how that actually happened was I was asked by Asia Ahmad, by Auntie Asia, to go to the Durban University of Technology, DUT. Is it still called that?
Yeah.
And I had to address the media students and the journalism students, and they were having like an open day thing, and Radio Al Ansar was selected or invited as community radio. And so I went there representing the station, and I was always, so humbled and always so honored and very excited to always represent the radio station at these kind of things. And I think that's where, also my teaching and education background got a chance to also do its thing with obviously the help of my media. And I visited the campus and I gave a presentation, and we had a full-on PowerPoint presentation of what community radio is. And there were 2 students in the audience who ended up on my show. I recruited them, which was Najma Bibi Noor Mohammed, who's now in Cape Town. And she came forward to me afterwards, because I put out an announcement and I said, if there's any of you, any students, no matter, any culture, race, whatever it was, religion, I wanted to get them involved. And she came forward, and I said, well, she was studying journalism at the time. I took her as my newsreader and mentored her along the way as well. And then my sports guy, also Stephen Bengu, came from there. I think he went on to commercial radio as well later on, once I had left. That was my team. Then just quickly, there was Kaleidoscope, which was a lifestyle magazine show, which was on the weekend. Of course, there was always that sports aspect and sports part of me that my heart will always go to South African sport. And I ran the sports talk show as well, that also happened to be on the weekend. It was always a very vibey and exciting program that we all looked forward to, and so many of the listeners looked forward to as well. And then there was Busy Bees, Salma,
the Busy Bees.
And I had the recording artist the recording producer at the time, which was Shahid Al-Kown.
Mm-hmm.
His son at the time did all my jingles for me, because he had the sweetest voice, mashallah, and we got him that time to do all my Busy Bees jingles. And then apart from that, it was the Eid editions and the live from the red carpet at the Al Ansar dinner at NMJ Hall, and if it was live outdoor broadcasts. And that for me was one of my best and most fun moments. It was always having an outdoor broadcast and being asked, alhamdulillah, to be a part of that. So there were a couple of places in the radio station, behind and on the scenes, that I was very honored and humbled to be a part of. And it will always be a part of me.
Beautiful. Aisha Jamal enjoying the nostalgia as well. She shares, so wonderful to hear your voice again back on radio. And also she remembers the walkabouts, Eid time as well. Lots of fun memories.
And the souk memories.
Hey, lots to talk about.
Lots of memories.
But alhamdulillah, it's come a long way, and we can only make dua that this inspires the current team, the new team as well, to just take it on and take it forward as strong as they can, so that we will talk about this in years to come, that this was the time at 2 407 West Road. And and inshallah,
103 FM.
Hey, 103. Wow. Look at that.
Keep it locked on to 103 FM.
103? Oh my word. I didn't even remember that. But yeah, amazing. And we spoke about how that time there was no WhatsApp. It was BBM pins and all those things as well. So, and the listeners had to send a number and it came via email.
And we had a screen where my sound engineer would type in what I needed to say and who the caller was. And
lots to talk about, but it's already just past 12 o'clock. So we've got to hand over now to the news team and the next presenters to take over. And I'll be back with you again next week, inshallah, same time, same place. Messages coming in for Amina Hanif, always listening in to the Sunday Lounge, saying she remembers the day. Yes, she always reminds me, and Auntie Asa reminded me as well, that my first time at radio was in my school uniform, and I would walk in there as well. So wonderful to have you. Amina needs to be on the show as well. She definitely needs to, but so far she's declining the invite. So we will keep putting pressure on her. You've got 2 weeks left of August, Amina, and you'll have you on the program, inshallah. Thank you so much to Shakira Sayed and Fatima Henry for being in studio.
Thank you so much for having us.
Did you say one more thing? No.
Did
I thought you were going to say something.
I just wanted to say to you, thank you so much for having us on the Sunday Lounge. It's actually been a privilege and it's been so lovely being here. And may Allah take you from strength to strength, Salma. Great to have you back on the airwaves.
Ameen. Thank you so much. Shakira Sayed and Fatima Henry. I'll speak to you next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
To make a better place, heal the world, make it a better